Let's start off really easy and simple for our newer Cypher players. If you want to place a flank trip that they can't crouch or jump over, all you have to do when placing it to get a perfect trip is to crouch and have the wires line inside of your eyes of your player model, and boom, you never miss a flank trip again. You can also use his trip wires sort of like a recon dart to clear close angles like logs on Ascent, and if they aren't there, you can just pick it up and you don't waste any utility for the round. You can also use his camera to open up the bind teleporter doors for you to outplay some enemies camping inside of it, or you can use this same mechanic over on Fracture to fake a sound cue and outplay an enemy. A ton of players also tend to think just because the camera is red, you aren't able to place it there. But sometimes all you have to do is jump first and it'll work. Speaking about Cypher cameras, if you want to learn some more good ones for every map, you need to check out the guides tab on Valorant Tracker, which is by the way today's lovely video sponsor and helped me to give back to you guys. And for a chance to win another free Valorant Battle Pass, make sure to like this video and comment hashtag installed Valorant Tracker in the comment section below. You can also use Valorant Tracker to see your agent win rates, headshot percentages, map win rates, and so much more. It also has a cool feature which actually shows you your teammates' ranks and stats when you get into a lobby with them. And there's also the live match feature that can show you the stats for both teams while you are in a live game. And a match history tab to go through everyone's stats after the game. If you want to figure out what parts of your gameplay you struggle with, check out the link in the description or the pinned comment. Now let's get right back to the video. Cypher Cages also have a few different uses and mechanics, but we'll start with the basics. If someone enters your cage, you will hear a sound cue, and if your Cypher Cage is placed on top of an object, it will actually cover double the space over if you just placed your same cage on the floor beside it. You can use this to your advantage, so you can use cages like this one to get out of a heaven, for example on Haven, without being seen. Once you understand this mechanic, you can then be a little bit more creative with it, since Cypher Cages will float on top of sage walls even if broken, so you can place a Cypher Cage on top of a sage wall to have a long cage anywhere across the map. Now let's talk about one-way cages, which initially sounds pretty complex, but they're actually really straightforward and easy to use and will give you a huge advantage when holding down your sight. For example, this cage on C-Long for Haven is really simple. All you have to do is throw your cage into this little horn thing here, and this will give you a big advantage when holding down C-Sight. One-way cages are designed to give you a clear line of sight and positional advantage, making it easier for you to win a fight where you are heavily favored in. I know a lot of people are going to be afraid, but they are really easy to learn and really easy to use. Now we're going to be talking about corner cages, which is a pretty popular strategy that you're going to see in videos from people like Acre the Dog. However, it's important to note that the corner cages are considered to be an exploit or unintended mechanic in the game, but it's not bannable. This tactic involves placing a Cypher Cage in such a way where a small part of it will go through the wall and create a hiding spot for you. You can place these corner cages on the fly on a ton of different spots on the maps, like U-Haul on Bind for example. This is an Acre the Dog one, but I just kind of threw it on the fly. So you don't really need any lineups for them. You can kind of just make them up as you go on almost anywhere on any map to get yourself some ratty cool outplays. The first setup, stand on top of dice and aim at the top of this roof and throw one cage. Then aim to the left to the buildings and throw your other cage. Then place your first trip by A main here and your camera to the left side of Shroud. Place your final trip by the cat entrance, and this camera can see cat and A main, and you have some nice one ways to play off of. Start off by putting a Cypher camera above the door, then put your first trip from Shroud to front sight and your second trip in front of switch. Then put two cages on the left and right hand side of dice to spam through your cages for free frag. Place your first trip pizza to hold the mid push, then your second one from lane to switch so they can't close the door. Then aim at this floating rock and throw two one-way cages for B main and place your camera up here so you can get info inside of B main. If they push, pop your cage and get some free frags. Or throw the same one-way cage and place your other cage by stairs, then one trip by logs and your other trip in front of switch. Place your camera in the B main window for early info and play stairs or CT. If they push B, use your one-way cage and you can spam for free frags. You can also use this really cool Cypher camera behind this little wood fence here and you can see lane and stairs from it. Place your first trip from the top of this solar panel to the floor. Then your second trip from shed to front sight. Finally, place your camera on this side to see long, or you can also use this camera behind sight to see hookah and long. Either works. Then place one cage on top of sight here and one on top of this green box. If they push site, you can play around your cages and spam them from top site. Or you can place your camera behind this solar panel, then your first trip from shed to site, then your next trip from the floor to the top of hookah window, and one cage inside of hookah and the other cage elbow. If they try to push site, you can pop your cages and get some spam frags. For A site, place your camera on top of this vent, then one trip from TP to cubby, and one cage on top of the short box. Place your other cage and trip for showers. Place your first trip drop, then place your camera right above drop. Place your next trip by the A main entrance, and then stand here and throw this one-way cage above A main. If they push, pop your cages and enjoy the free frags. Or you can place this first trip underneath drop, then place your camera above A main and place your first cage in front of the stairs and your next cage on the stairs. This allows you to play around your cages and go for some spam frags. For B, place one trip for arcade here and one by the main entrance, and put one cage on both of the trips, and then have a teammate boost you onto dice and throw your camera on this tree to see arcade for early info. Or you can place this trip by default with one cage by site, and then put your camera above gen here and place your final trip in tower so they can't come up the rope. First, place your camera on this roof by long. This shows you inside of short and long. Then place your one trip in front of default and combo it with a cage, and place your other trip from the short box to default and one cage in front of short. If they push, just pop your cages and spam the enemies in the trip. For B site, place your camera back site to see mid window, then place your first trip on the left side of site and one on the right side of site. Combo both of these trips with cages, and if they push B, just spam through your cages for easy frag. For C, place one trip garage and one cage on the right side of site. Then place this camera to see deep sea long cross, and place your final trip diagonally by your cage to spam anyone trying to push into site. Place your first trip by mid box, then line up with this wall and aim at this rock to throw this one-way cage for A site. Place your last trip by default, and go heaven and place your camera on top of tree room. If they push, pop your cage and enjoy the easy frags with your one-way. For B, place your camera in front of the entrance, one trip by the entrance comboed with a cage, and then one trip by default plant and combo that with another cage. If they push in, check your camera or just spam the people inside of your trips. For C site, throw your first cage on this banister and then throw your other cage on the left one as well. Place one trip by the entrance, then place your camera on top of slant. If they push, pop your one-way cages and get some easy frags. For B, place your first trip mid-link here and your camera on the side of this clock tower. Then place your other trip in front of sign and look up and throw two one-way cages. Watch your camera to see if they're coming up long and pop your one-way cages for easy frag. Place your first trip from default to art and combo it with a cage. Then place another trip from church to front site and put a cage on the other side of site. Then place your camera above art to see a main cross, and spam through your cages if they push. Or you can place this double trip setup on sign and one cage for backhauls, and if they push and hit your trips, just spam them for easy frags. You can also use this really strong Cypher camera where you can throw it above top mid to see mid doors push and the art push. For B site, place a trip on top of male, then your camera above B site, and then use these two one-way cages for B main and your last trip for the entrance of main. If they are B main, pop your one-ways and enjoy easy frags. Or you can place your camera on top of pillar to see B main and heaven, then place one trip by the entrance and one by shed. Place one cage by shed and one by new box. If they push, pop your cages and try and spam them off your trip. For A site, place your camera inside of screens, then one trip by flowers, and throw one cage above you for this one-way, and then put your other cage by default. If they push, use your one-way cages for some easy frags. Just a quick shout out to my friend Rio for helping me with these Cypher setups. Make sure to check him out on Twitch as well. Thank you guys for watching today's video, and if you think you need more help ranking up, make sure to join the Discord in the description. I do free coaching all live on Twitch at twitch.tv/RemValorant. Thank you for watching and peace out.